and welcome back to Queerpreneurs Unleashed. I'm your host, Dustyn Baulkham. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm also the executive producer here at Unicorns Live. Also, I want to make sure to acknowledge that we are recording this on the traditional unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan people, and want to ensure that we honor and respect the land on which we work, play, and live. And I'm excited to have one of my good friends, Ella, here today. Ella, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ella Lamoureux. I am a local two-spirit drag artist, business person, all-around fantastic individual that just loves to make money.
And talk about yourself.
And talk about myself. That is my favorite subject. I
Yes.
can go on for hours about me.
We know. That was actually going to be my joke when I asked you to talk about yourself and introduce yourself. Was like, keep it short. We're not here all night, and you also have a show to get to. But you did it for me. So.
You'll have what is it where they have like that red light when you're in a comedy set?
Oh, to like wrap it up?
Yeah, they'll start flicking a light off at the back so you can see it, and that tells you that your time's almost up. Yeah,
use it up. Kind of like, was it the Emmys when they like play the music?
Yeah, exactly. The music starts playing over me.
Yeah. And so you mentioned your intro being two-spirit. I wonder if you can talk a bit more about your identity and how you identify.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, I'm a two-spirit individual. I'm from the Yukon Territory. I'm Cascadene by cultural band. I never know how to say that. Like, my indigenous background is Cascadene, my peoples. That even sounds a little weird, but that's.
And it's not is it a tribe?
Well, like, they tried to step away from tribe a while ago, so you don't hear it too much.
Okay.
And then when you say band, that brings it to your band office. So it kind of puts a government spin on it, which is also kind of a little bit bad. So my clan, I'm Wolf Clan.
Oh, okay.
I'm Cascadene. I'm from the Yukon part of the Cascadene. Yeah, so I'm just a queer individual from the Yukon that came to terms with my cultural identity probably not super recently, about 10 or so years ago. Fell in and out, came back in, and then this became a huge thing with my drag to incorporate my culture into it. And now here I am, just living fantastically.
Authentically.
Authentically. There you go. That's right.
So you said you fall in and out. What do you mean by that?
Like fall in.
You said like over the last 10 years ago you were like falling in and out, and so maybe you can clarify a bit.
So this is a lengthy story. If we want to talk about it, we got to shorten it down a little bit. But it comes from when I grew up. I grew up very entrenched. Not entrenched. That sounds like a terrible word too. I grew up with a lot of culture around me. I had my grandparents, my parents. We lived off the land. We did everything close to culturally as we can. I'm saying culture a lot. But we learned to say thanks when we went hunting, or we always gave prayer when we needed to, and we always gave back to the earth and always helped our elders. It was just something that was always around. And then when I got older and realized that natives weren't super treated well, I fell out of my culture because I thought that it was the right thing to do, because my dad's Métis, my mother's full native. So I was like, I'm going to embrace my white side because they get treated better in society. So then I fell out of my culture, and then got older and realized that wasn't the right thing to do. So I went back into my culture. Okay. And then that's when I discovered two-spiritness, or the term two-spirit, because I always knew I was indigiqueer, but didn't have a proper term for it. And then, so that was my in and out moment. And now I've fully embraced it and living authentically, like you said. And it helped because people resonate with it. So it's good.
Was indigiqueer how you first came out, or how did you first come out?
I was just a little gay boy when I first came out. I'm sure, like most people, you grew up in a small town, but you're not as flamboyant as I am. But I held back a lot of my queerness when I was younger because it wasn't the thing to do. You had to present more masculine. I grew up in the Yukon, like I said earlier, and then northern BC. So as soon as I moved away from my parents' house and moved to a city, which was Calgary, all of a sudden, like, I was wearing eyeliner and I was having colors in my hair and I'd tie ribbons to my pants. Like, I was just very gay, running down the street, little crop tops, like low-rise jeans. Like,
so kind of like today.
Kind of like today. That was the full circle that like went out, and then I went conservative, and now back to being very gay. What What was the question?
So you initially came out as gay.
Oh, yes,
and then Indigiqueer, and then Two Spirit. Was that kind of the
Indigiqueer, and then Two Spirit, and now Two Spirit just encapsulates my identity.
Right.
For people that at home that don't know what that means, it's just a blanket term for Indigenous people. That's anything in the queer spectrum, but it's also a term that an Indigenous person has to take on themselves. Just because you're Indigenous doesn't mean you're Two Spirit. So they're two separate things, Indigiqueer and Two Spirit.
Well, if I understand correctly, before colonizers came over, a Two Spirit person was like quite highly regarded in Indigenous culture.
Yeah, they were considered to have places of honor, such as like matchmakers or storytellers or history keepers or shamans. They were seen this way because they were deemed to be able to understand both sides of the spectrum of male and masculine, so they can bridge the realms and they can see more than what a standard regular person can see. So they were given places of honor. And during colonization and residential schools, that has been taken away from us. So it's been going through resurgence to try to recoup that, but so much knowledge has been lost during all these times. We are not just recouping cultural or history, we're also rewriting it, which is also a lot of work, because some people's like, how do you know? And you're like, you're right, we don't know. It's like, but we have fragments from our elders that are still alive that we can go with, but we do have to fill in gaps. And hopefully we can do that with respect and inclusion and love.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how long, so it was about 10 years ago that you realized you were Two Spirit, and that's when you started changing, or when?
Started changing?
Changing. Well, maybe changing the terminology that you used.
Yes, it was about 10 years ago when I was in university, and then that's when I first found out of the term Two Spirit. And I just instantly took it onto myself because like, it really resonated with me as a person. And then this is just the thing about how language changes throughout the years, but when I first started taking on, I think 9 out of 10 people, I would take the time to have to explain what Two Spirit was. Okay. All the time. I was always explaining my identity. And then it got to a point where I was just super tired and got angry when people asked me, which wasn't the proper response to have. But I do find now that it's only maybe 1 in 10 times that I have to explain it. Right. And since I'm more older and calmed down a little bit more, I don't mind explaining it every now and then.
Not so rage-filled.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I feel like Two Spirit is a fairly common term now.
It
for
is.
a lot
like
of
I said,
people, at least.
The conversations are happening. People are discussing it. And it's just getting the knowledge out there. And I feel like that goes with everything. Because same with transgender people. There were a niche, I shouldn't say niche group, that's terrible. But they were a group that weren't talked about, but now they're talked about a lot. So now they're getting recognition, they're getting seen. The downside with that is there's a lot of misinformation coming with it as well.
Absolutely.
And thankfully that hasn't happened with Two-Spiritedness yet. But going by how silly some people are in the world, I don't doubt it won't happen one day.
It'll be interesting, I think, what that is. Like, if how society will react, I guess, in a sense.
You just tack the word racism on there and then people shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have any words for that. Taking your identity, because obviously you're a drag performer, and how long have you been doing drag for?
It's going on about 15 years doing drag now. And well, I say when I first started drag in Kelowna, there wasn't much going on. So I didn't think that this would be a viable career. And then when I started taking it more seriously, which is about 2 years into drag, and I was able to finally start making money, because when at the beginning it was all just like a fun creative expression where more money was going out than coming in. So when I started making some money off it, I was like, this would be fun. Full well knowing at the time, since Drag Race wasn't a huge thing, the only 2 cities in Canada that you can make money off drag was Toronto and Vancouver. Right. And I didn't know if I ever wanted to move to those cities. I was really happy being in Kelowna. And so the idea of creating a business out of Ella was never in the books for me. It was never something that I could make a career of. And then a couple years after that, Drag Race started kicking off like amazingly. And then it started picking up in Kelowna, and I was like, oh, we're starting to make more money. Like, this is great. So going around Canada, started making more. And then now it's gotten to a point where I work a lot with yourself. I work a lot with outside events that I have. I made good connections in Western Canada, hoping to make it to Eastern Canada more so. But it's now gotten to a point where I'm making a career off of this, which is fantastic. It's not something I ever thought I could do with my creative self. But having that come in, it also has a lot of lessons involved. Because that before, you would just throw yourself into a situation and then hope that you get paid. And then you have to start learning to be more savvy, because you have to like negotiate with the venues. You have to negotiate with your promoters. You have to like really flesh out all these ideas or make sure everything's all set in stone. So it was a learning curve going along. But thankfully, I used to be a makeup artist beforehand. So just like self-taught, but I still made money off of it. But I learned contracts and a bit like that, and thankfully reading some of the stuff that you gave me, and then I was able to be like, oh, this is easy to figure out.
Well, I think that's, I mean, contracts, like as long as you have a template to start with,
Yeah,
that's the easiest thing. And then you start, you do a couple and you realize, okay, with, CYA is kind of always my language, right?
yeah.
Cover
And
your
then it
own
only
ass.
takes a few times for you to get screwed over for you to realize I need to add this to my contract now. I need
Yeah.
to add this in there. And then pretty soon it's like a nice little ironclad thing that that works well.
Yeah.
You
It's
learn
kind
to ask the right questions as well,
True.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you started, would you say it was more like kind of hobby-ish, being that it was like you were spending more than you were making?
Yeah. So starting out with drag, it was just a hobby for myself. I wouldn't even call it a hobby. It was more just like a creative outlet, which is a hobby. Yeah. So it was just, like I said, it was not something that I thought I was going to be able to create a career off of.
Totally.
And so it was just a lot of groundbreaking work. And since in Kelowna there was no other drag artists other than myself and Sasha at the time, and YouTube didn't have a lot of tutorials on how to do drag, it was
Probably
just
new itself, right?
yeah,
YouTube.
new, yeah. It was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Just like, this looks good. Let's try to make it.
Yeah.
Let's try to do that. So thankfully, I'm a creative person, and my friends are a creative person, so we're able to like navigate how to make ourselves amazing. Now, will I admit their first shows, were they great? Probably not. But thankfully, we created some fans throughout the years that they kept coming back. And now what's great is that I've been doing drag. My whole career in drag has been in the Okanagan.
Right.
I did move away a little bit to Fort McMurray, but that's still, I came back here and did drag while living there. So like I consider my home base will always be Kelowna at the
Right.
moment. But it's great to have people that know me from the very beginning, and then they will make comments, be like, or they'll show me photos, be like, "Do you remember this girl?" It's like, "Yeah, I do remember her."
I've seen a few of your posts. I didn't know you back then, but
No.
I've seen a couple of your posts of a comparison from then to now.
Yeah, I also used to drink a lot, so there's some shows I don't remember, and I see photos. I don't drink anymore, but I just want to put that out there.
We both
Yeah.
used to drink a lot. And so I know you said you've been doing drag for 15 years. You realized about 10 years ago is when you started identifying as Two-Spirit.
Yeah.
Did your drag change at all when you discovered who you, like your true identity maybe is what?
It did help me accept the feminine side of myself, because growing up, the way I did with my family, it was very frowned upon to be feminine as a boy. So I pushed that aside as much as I can, and I just had little pockets of it where I was able to express it. And I wanted to do drag for, I think, since the first time I seen a drag artist at 18 in Calgary. And I wanted to do it, but I never did it because, once again, that shame of presenting feminine
Right.
kept me from doing it. And then when I moved to Kelowna and we had a little drag party and I did it, and I was like, this is fun. But I still had that little bit of shame. I was with my now ex-husband, at the time boyfriend. He encouraged me or told me that if I want to keep doing this, because I did ask him. I was like, do you mind? Because I don't know why I thought he was going to leave me, I guess. Doesn't matter, we're not together anymore. Joke's on him. Anyways, so he said, yeah, go for it. If it makes you happy, fantastic. And doing drag and having it accepted and having it celebrated really made me come to terms with my feminine side, to embrace it. And I can say that once I did that, my drag has gotten better. Because I think when I first started, there was still that sense of, I am dressing up in a dress and I'm lip syncing to a bunch of strangers in a room. So there was this little bit of doubt that I always had that didn't let me fully commit.
Right.
And then once I was able to really understand my identity, and my drag helped me come to terms with my cultural identity, and then the Two-Spirit came in, it really helped to unlock doors and just made everything flow more freely on stage. And I think a lot of people notice that as well, that I'm now very comfortable
Very.
on a stage.
Well, I mean, that's your life. That's
Yeah.
what you do. I wouldn't say every single day, but most days
Yeah.
in
And
some
lately
way.
it's been pretty much every
Every
day.
day.
These last few weeks has been a lot. Watch my makeup tutorials on the same
Sorry.
website. They're great videos though.
And so if someone said to you, because there's people out there like this, they don't, maybe see drag as being entrepreneurial, what would you say to them?
Okay, if someone would have said that 10 years ago, I'd have been like, you're right. Like, it's not
Right.
not a viable future. But now that it's gotten to the point that it is, if someone wants to take the step and really commit, I'd be like, who are you to tell us that we're not contracted workers, that we're not our own business? Ella Lamoureux is a business. Like, I have to go out there and I have to find my own events. Thankfully I don't have to do as much anymore because they work with some fantastic people. But for someone to say that drag isn't an entrepreneurial business, I feel like that's probably coming from a little bit of a place of jealousy, only because they're not able to go out and do something that they love all the time and make a career of. And it's the same as when I hear people talk to my artist friends and they would instantly be like, oh, well, I have my real job. Like, my
Real
artist
job.
friends, yeah, even though they're painting or they're sewing or they're doing something, they are going out there, they're creating, they're doing all this work. That is still a job. They still need to do that. And then I have, because I work most weekends, and I had this discussion with you before. People always ask me to take time off to go for little like weekend getaways, and I was like, why can't we go during the week? And they're like, well, it's because I have a job.
Yeah.
And I was like, so do I.
Yeah.
The only difference is that if I don't work this weekend, I don't have holiday pay or sick pay or
Yeah.
things to rely on. If I am not working that weekend, then that means I'm not making money that weekend. And it's like, so why do I have to take my time off for a weekend away
Yeah.
when you won't do that for me either? So I feel like there's a give and take. And I think it's suspected, since it's a weekend job, that we should step aside for the people that have a real job. Like, sorry that you're, your number crunching number that you hate.
Well, I think that's the other thing is those are the people who hate what they do day to day.
Yeah.
They just do it. They work to play, basically.
Yeah.
Where I feel like us and what we do is work and play are often very entangled.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we work so much, is because we love what we do.
And we have fun.
Yeah, as frustrating it might be at times, and we wear ourselves out. But I mean, your career is in essence kind of taking us to Thailand in March, right?
Yes, it is, in essence.
And all of our events is what's paying for our flights. So
Yay.
with all the points,
Yeah.
but
And it's very much that it's our job is this. It's creative. It's a fun situation, and like you said, it does burn you out at times. But then while we're in it, it's fun. But the setup part it sucks sometimes.
yeah, I know.
And you do a lot more than that than
Yeah.
I do. Like, me putting on my makeup tonight, I was like, ugh. But now that I'm sitting here having a conversation, it's like a great moment. But
Well, because you get to talk about yourself, your
yes,
favorite thing.
exactly. It's all about me again. Just brings me to life.
Shocking.
But but it's also, we had this discussion before as well, is that mine more than yours, but we still work quite a bit. My job is always at the bar, always out, always at a club or some theater. There's always something in the evening time. And then when I have a day off, people are like, let's go to the bar. And I would be like, that's the last place
Yeah.
I want to go. It's
Yeah.
like, I want to stay at home and watch a movie. It's like, do you want to order a pizza, do that? And they're like, well,
Yeah, go for a hike, any of that kind of stuff.
yeah, like I want to do something that's going to be relaxing and calming, because I know that the weekend I'm going to be listening to loud music. I'm going to listen to drunk people talk to me. I'm going to have a lot of things thrown at me at once, and it's going to be quite stimulating at times. And then I just need that time to just decompress.
One, I think, and the difference of being entrepreneurial versus a regular job.
For people at home that's watching this audibly, there was air quotes.
Is, obviously these people see, that you're recording, you're doing video, you're doing shows, but they don't see all the behind the scenes stuff of like, how much time it takes to get ready every night. And that's why, they think, oh, you're only here for half an hour. I don't need to pay you that much.
Yeah.
But they don't think of all the other stuff and how much effort you put into like social media and the different pieces.
Yeah, social media, styling wigs, like getting your outfits together, shopping. We don't get all those
Second
aspects.
favorite thing.
Yeah.
First talking about yourself, second shopping, third performing.
Literally. But like it's yeah, and another thing I think people don't understand as well is that as a performer with an office job or something like in that aspect, when you're not face to face with so many people, you can have down days or you can have moments where you don't want to be on all the time. Whereas with my position and even with yours as well, when we're out at these events, we need to be on all the time because
Absolutely.
these are new clients.
Yeah, customers,
Like
clients,
fans,
yep.
customers, these new people that are going to fall in love with us or come to the show. So we don't have space to be down.
Right.
So I think that's part of the reason why I really embrace like that recovery time, that time to be able to recharge. Because if I go out and I have a shitty day and I treat people terribly, that's like maybe 50 to 100 fans that I'm not going to have again that won't come to my show again. And
It's true.
I want people to always come see me because I'm pretty cool.
Small ego too.
Yeah, small ego, big hair, small ego.
So I don't think we specifically touched on this. I know you and I have talked about it a lot, but it's been about almost 4 years since you went full time. I guess it was like January, right? So yeah, literally almost 4 years. What in that time since you've gone full time, I mean, outside of the pandemic, because I feel like that's probably the biggest challenge, but what would you say has been the biggest challenge of going full time drag?
The biggest challenge would just be like financial security.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because once again, if I'm not working, I'm not working. If I'm not finding these avenues to be able to keep working, then it does create a sense of, oh, I just need to be doing more. But also, like, I don't also need to be doing more. I just need to make sure that the quality that I have is now, because that's going to create more opportunities in the future. So I feel like that's one of the biggest thing. And also, creative burnout a little bit as well. I've when I first started doing drag full time, it was just to be pretty and to do a number. That was that. I was always taught at a young age, you know, to look good, be present, and that's enough. And it was during the pandemic when we couldn't perform that we were given a space to just talk, because that's all we could do. We couldn't move around the bar. So when the bar was performing at the local one, Friends of Dorothy, we would sit in our little plexiglass box essentially with a chair in the middle, and I would just interact with the audience. And I did that 3 nights a week, and that's how I paid for my life. And it just really made me realize that I have more to offer. Like, I'm funnier, I'm witty, I can create jokes, and that's, I think, when it also amplified my career even more. Because like, I like to talk, as you can see, but I like to make people laugh, and it's the power of communication where you can make people comfortable or uncomfortable, and I think that those
You're good at both.
Yeah, exactly. They do both very, very well, and I feel like those are the avenues that really create strong bonds with your fans to make them want to come back, and that's where I've learned the most, but also where I've almost made me creatively drained. Not creatively drained. That's not it. Because like I do have down days, and sometimes I'll go to a bar or event that we do, and I am having a down day, and I have to like get my mind going, and sometimes it's tough. And then if you're having a down day and you say a joke and the audience isn't responding, and then it just like puts you in a moment, you're like, okay, like you're stronger than this. Snap out of this.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest struggle.
I don't know where this is kind of coming to left field for myself right now, but do you feel since you've stopped drinking that those down days are any less, or do you feel like how has your business changed, and how have you changed as a part of that with not drinking?
Well, with my not drinking, the main thing with business is that I'm not forgetting emails, or I'm not forgetting to not respond to certain people. Like, I remember this, or sometimes when I'm having a drink, someone will send me a message and I'll read it, but then I'll forget that it happened. Right. So there was missed opportunities. So I'm not missing any opportunities now, which is the main thing. But I think that I've gotten better now that I don't drink. Like, I think my humor is a little bit better. Some little things were said off the cuff when I was drinking a lot more, but
your lips were a little looser, that's for sure.
Lips were a little looser, definitely. Like, I'd say a lot of things that were more problematic, maybe. But I also find that not drinking has made me more empathetic. Like, I'm more conscientious of what I'm going to say. And I do firmly believe that if you're a comedian, that you can still say any joke you want. It's just how you say it.
Right.
Like, you can say a stupid joke about racism, but if you are making everyone in the room feel that they're the butt of that joke, it's only funny to you or the other idiots in the room that think it's great. If you can reword that it brings them all into the joke, I feel like that's where a good comedian can come in.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I do that quite well. Like, I bring people in. There's still some moments where I'm like, ooh, I just said that. But I find myself catching myself, and I apologize, like, instantly. And I'm not saying that's a Band-Aid to put it over, but I feel like it lets people know that they realize that I fucked up. And then if I feel like I have offended someone, I do go up to them and be like, hey, just so you know, this is an excuse, but I'm taking accountability for it.
Well, I guess the biggest thing is we all make mistakes in what we say, no matter who we are.
Yeah.
And it's owning up to that and realizing that, ooh, shit, I did just fuck up. Like, I need to own up to this. And I think most people realize it wasn't meant in a malice way.
Yeah.
And the fact that you went and corrected it right away versus just letting it go and letting them deal with it.
Yeah.
And I know when you first stopped drinking, I know one of your primary venues at Dorothy's there, Keith everyone kind of thought you weren't going to be as funny. And I was included in that, where it's like, I wonder what she's going to be like sober.
Yeah. It was funny. Like, I didn't tell anyone that I was quitting drinking. I just stopped one day. It was just something I just didn't do. And then every time I went to Dorothy's, that's where my main weekly gigs are. Every time I'd go in, the bartender would have a shot of tequila, a glass of water, and a bottle of wine. And they would open it as soon as I came into the bar. And then I thought that was just so kind of the bar to do that, not realizing that, ooh, that might be a problem. Anyways, they did that for me this one night, and I was like, oh, I'm not drinking anymore. And they're like, oh, weird. And I was like, yeah.
Weird.
Thanks. So I did the whole show. I did it all. And then, Keith at the end of it, not meaning to say this in a negative way, but it can come off to someone that maybe is struggling. Whereas myself, I just decided that I didn't want to drink for certain reasons, like detoxing. It wasn't like because I thought I had a problem. It could have came to a problem. This is another podcast. Anyways,
a whole other discussion.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the end of the show, like I said, Keith was like, oh, I didn't think that you're still going to be funny. And I was like, yeah, it's like, I don't need alcohol to be an asshole. Like, it just comes natural.
But I feel like some people do, especially starting out. And I think, we know some performers who literally need to be damn near drunk before they're up there.
Yeah.
And then you can obviously tell.
Yeah. And then they become a mess, or they didn't, it was like a light switch. They were fine and then they weren't. I heard a lot of people tell me that they didn't realize sometimes when I was drunk as I was, like, you hit it really well. I was like, all right, cool. It's like, I don't know if that's a compliment or...
So in all your years of doing drag, do you have like a particular moment or time when you just like feel like it was like a huge achievement for yourself?
I was on a show in the past, Call Me Mother, and when I first got cast on that, I was like, this is quite great. And then that didn't turn out super well. But there was a moment when I thought, this is the right track that I'm going on. But I try to be grateful for everything that has come my way, because I feel that if I stop being happy or grateful of the things that have come my way, then I'm progressively going to take things for granted, which I never want to do. Right. I feel that if I can do drag 3 to 4 nights a week and I can pay my bills and I have a savings, I'm always in awe that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Because like I think about my job beforehand, I was in the cosmetic world and I hated it. Like, I love makeup. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm good at it. But like dealing with people all the time, being like, I want to makeup look without looking like I'm wearing makeup. Like, oh my God, go home.
Go to YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch my show.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
You still deal with people just in a different way. It's like you're dealing with a room full of people versus like one person. Yeah. And it's all.
But also, I'm my own boss doing this. Like, I work with promoters, or I work really closely. Like, you and I work closely together. But in essence, like, I'm still my own boss. I bring what I can to the table, and you're hiring that because of what I bring to the table. Like, we kept working together because of how I act in a professional setting, and you kept hiring me because of what I can do on stage. And then our friendship bloomed over time because we just were working so much together that if a friendship didn't blossom, it just would have been weird. It would just be like robotic or very like inauthentic. But it just naturally grew out of that. So
it's like, oh, I gotta fucking hire this bitch again.
Yeah, exactly. And there is some people that I have a show for myself. I don't want to speak for you, but that I'm like, shit, they're good, but God, they're just a shitty person.
There's always those.
Yeah, there's sometimes like a give and take, but thankfully with myself, I'm good all around.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've had a great working relationship over many years, which I'd say really grew during the pandemic.
Yeah, it grew.
We got to know each other during filming with basically Ella.
Yeah, that's when it started. Because the first time we worked together was I just moved back to Kelowna, and Sparkle asked me to do a fruitcake, and I think she was hiring for them at the time for you, or
she was
doing
helping,
something, helping out. So I did that with you. I did a couple, I believe, and then we did a Peak Pride, and then after that, Sparkle started doing her
Sip of Sparkle.
And then I was jealous. I was like, why do you get to film stuff? So I asked her, I was like, do you think Dustyn will let me? And she's like, just ask him. And I was nervous. So then I asked you, I was like, hey, can we think of something? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And then just grown from there. And then we just like doing more and more shows, and we filmed things. And then like there was a time where we were seeing each other every day. And then we did a tour last year where we saw each other like every day,
literally
traveling together and staying in the same rooms. Like it was just
yeah, you can't hate someone doing all that together.
No.
Or if you did, I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, or I just want to get hired again. I act like a lot of people are intimidated by me, which makes sense because I'm statuesque. But I think
small
it's
ego.
Small ego. I think it's the same with everything, is because people see you and they put you on a pedestal, or they idolize. I don't want to use the word idolize, but they make you bigger than you are. And I love it when people see me that way, but once people get to know me, I'm still sarcastic, and I still have like a witty humor.
Bitch,
still sassy bitch for sure. But I'm pretty laid back. Like if you see me out of drag, like, I live in sweats. Literally in sweats and
crop tops
and a messy
sweats.
bun. Yeah.
Sometimes a bit of makeup, sometimes not.
Yeah. Only makeup if the dicks come around,
All of the years with drag, do you have any community initiatives that are like kind of near and dear to your heart that you don't necessarily have to donate your time, but maybe you give a discount rate, or just things that it's like you kind of work with whatever budget they have?
Mm-hmm. I do that quite often. If there is any queer charity that wants help and they reach out, I will definitely do that. I don't mind giving a discounted rate to someone, because I do have my set rates now, which I will let them know that this is what it is. And if they can't do that, then I'll be like, I will work within your budget. Yeah, if I'm thinking about like anything with etc., like I will gladly do that. I will donate my time for some of these things. One, I don't know if you know this, and people that know it, etc. It's a youth group. If I would have had that when I was younger, I'm not going to say I'm going to be any better than I am now, but just having that support would have been pretty cool as a younger person. I'm doing something coming up soon with Living Positive.
Or your New Year's?
Yeah, for New Year's. So, yeah, anything that's charity and queer, I'm in. And even if another company asks me to do it, I always try to give back, because if I'm at a position where I can help other people, then I'm going to do that. I sometimes think to myself, like, what if I need help one day? Who am I going to reach out to? Like, I hope that doesn't happen. I'm hoping that where I can go, but you just can't tell, What if I break a leg and I can't work? I don't know. I want to be able to put good karma out there. Yeah. Got to give good juju to get good juju.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say there.
Yeah, charity's good. Do your charity work.
Charity is, yeah.
I used to have a joke all the time saying that I would sleep with one person that was unfortunate looking, because that was my charity for the year.
So I remember that. I feel like that was more of a drinking joke.
It was, but I still say it now and then if I'm hitting on someone in the bar, or if they hit on me and I don't like them, I'd be like, whoa, I already did my charity this year.
Yeah. So there's obviously many different types of queer entrepreneurs out there, and some, whether it's storefronts or whatnot. And so I had developed this question around discrimination based on being queer for people that are not in traditionally queer-focused entertainment or business, which is obviously what we do. Mm-hmm. And so I'd love to have you share a bit more about discrimination that you faced in your profession. Yeah.
Well, like, thinking about this, thinking like a bell curve kind of a little bit. At the very beginning, when I started drag, especially in a smaller community like Kelowna, there was a lot of discrimination with bars that we would want to work with because they didn't have queer spaces, or they didn't want to do a monthly queer event because that doesn't sell, which, you know, makes sense. Like, you're thinking about your business, no big deal. But at the beginning, there was a lot of pushback with where we can do events or who wanted to work with us because they just didn't want to do a queer event, or they didn't want to be seen doing a queer event. So it was a very, very interesting time. It took a lot of effort and a lot of convincing for us to do our shows back in the day. And then Drag Race started kicking off and made drag pretty mainstream. And then all of a sudden, those same venues that didn't want to work with us were now wanting to work with us. So it went from having people pushing back to having people really wanting to work with us. And then there was a very beautiful golden time where so many people wanted to do a queer event for inclusion or pink washing that it got to a point where we can vet the vendors so that we can ask them questions like, are they trained to be able to, if something happens? And it was a beautiful time where we could be like, we don't want to work with you because your history shows that it's not a great match. And so that was fantastic. And now it's like going back to the very beginning, where since there's so many people that are now saying all these hateful things about drag artists and how we're, you know, indoctrinating kids into a world of sex and crime and drugs.
It's a sex show.
Yeah, it's a sex show. And it feels that we went from here, went to this golden era, and then we're looping back down to this place that's kind of scary at times. And I don't let a lot of things get to me because I'm like, it just doesn't. Like, if I can't control a situation, I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm just going to roll with it. But I finally got shook this year when I did drag story time in Kamloops, and there's this older woman that was just aggressively chanting pervert to me. And it was a moment, and it affected me in a like for a few hours. And I realized, like, you know, like, she's not in front of me anymore. Like, I don't need to be thinking about this anymore. Right. Sure, I can think about in the long haul about trying to change minds and educating. But right now, like, I don't know this woman. I'm probably never going to see her again, so I shouldn't fixate on what she said. But it's wild that's happening, because I also have an event tonight at Dunenzi's here in town, and this one guy that loves to... My boyfriend, essentially, that loves to stalk me. And he's planning a protest for the show tonight, which is fantastic. And I like to say that he is my biggest fan because he writes about all our events. Anything that's not 19 plus is instantly a sex show. He has shown up to so many of my events, probably more than some of my biggest fans. Granted, he's using a poster and holding it outside saying that I'm a pervert. But, you know, there's love there.
Yeah,
He's promoting us. He's probably aggressively masturbating to my Instagram at home. But, you know, that's why he's so full of hate, because he's full of shame.
I feel like we need that clip for the promotional.
Yeah. Here's to you, GF.
Yeah. It doesn't. His name.
Don't want to say your full name. You don't deserve it. Criminals don't deserve it.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a wild time right now. And sometimes I feel bad about the new generation, like people that are maybe 20, 21, because they lived through that golden era of not having to have this discrimination, so they didn't have to deal with it. Whereas us were at an age where we had to deal with that quite heavily when we were younger, especially growing up in smaller towns. And then being queer and starting a business and having to navigate all those like indifferences or stereotypes. Because even with myself, people think that I'm a drag artist, so I instantly sell drugs or I drink or I'm going to be a mess. Granted, I was two of those. I just never sold drugs. But I was always professional, and some people are surprised with how professional I can be, or if I go into a situation and I'm like, okay, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. So it's just navigating how people perceive queer people or queer artists. And then we went through that golden era where everything was like amazing and things were being handed to us, and then we can say no, which was never an option before. Before I was like, yes, we'll take your money. And and now we're going back into that place of like stereotypes, and people's fears are coming out in like these hateful ways. So I just feel bad for the people that are like 20, 21 that never had that, and now they're going to have to deal with that because they came from a place of love and acceptance, and now they're seeing this aggressive hate, and they don't have the resources to combat it. So I'm hoping what we do is going to give them that backbone. I don't know. It's a weird time, because if you go to those protests now, it's all people my age or older, and there's not a lot of young people there. Right. And I feel that's because they've never had to deal with it before, so they don't feel they need to go out for it. but we need you there. Show up.
Right. The interest part now is, a lot of protests that happened, I guess, in essence, for our kind of elders, or like the more mature queer folk that fought for rights earlier, many, many years ago. You didn't have social media like you do now. So it was newspapers, if you were lucky, right? It was just people showing up. And so it's very different when it's easier to mobilize people now.
Yeah.
But also easier to scare people too.
Yeah, easier to scare people. It's also easy. People think they can just go online and be fine. But it's great. Go online and
keyboard warriors.
Support. It's fantastic. But also, we got to remember that the people that are maybe 60 and older, they fought for years and things got good. And now we're asking them to fight again because the younger generation isn't showing up. And I just gotta I feel sometimes bad because some of them are probably tired. They went through all of this already, and now they're being asked to go back into the front lines. And yes, keep doing that, but we just need all walks of life to show up.
Absolutely.
It's also the same with the people that are protesting us. Just to put it bluntly, it's majority middle class white cis people that are on the other side with boomer mentality. It's a sea of gray hair.
Yeah.
And aggressively being hateful, or younger people that have greasy hair that look like they sit in front of their computer all the time. It's such a weird disconnect because you have these people that look like they're gamers and they might have a gun under the bed, and it's all these older people beside them wearing their flannels and their sheets of paper that say really silly things. It's such a weird disconnect between the two groups that are fighting against gay rights, essentially, trans rights, recognition.
I'm going to steer us back to the entrepreneurial side.
Oh yeah.
That's what it's about, right? This affects us and it affects our business.
Oh, it totally does.
Right.
Because we have people now that don't want to come to events because they're scared of a protester, and then we have some people that are specifically coming out to support against the protesting, which is fantastic. Thank you for that.
A bit of both.
But we do have a majority of people being like, I don't want to go out because I don't want to be placed in a situation where I feel unsafe.
Totally.
And and I get that. Yeah. Having these protesters outside of our events does create a space of feeling unsafe. And then a lot of events that we do, we would pride ourselves on it being a safe, inclusive space.
Absolutely.
Where people can come and express themselves and be free and not have to worry. And it sucks when they have to do that, and then they leave the door and they have to face it. Granted, most people have to do that anyways when they leave our events because whatever external factors they have in their life. But to have it literally right outside the door shoves it back down in their throat too quickly. And it's just not a safe space. And it just blows my mind that these protesters are claiming to protect children. But when there's children that are on our side, they're screaming at them.
Making them cry.
Yeah. And it's not about the kids.
So thinking long term now, what kind of legacy would you like to leave with your life?
Well, I do want to focus more on my two-spirit identity. I don't want to be a beacon, but I do want to be someone that young queer people in rural communities can look up to. They can be like, this is someone that, I don't want to use the word got out, but has made something with themselves with what they were given when they're younger. Because if you go up in, because a lot of people most people know Indigenous people by urban indigeneity because they see them in Vancouver, they see them in cities. Right. So it's a little different than up north. Because if you see this might be controversial, but if you see natives in a bigger city, everyone else has the power because they can do the racism. Natives are just trying to fit in. But if you go farther up north where the reservations are the main ones and natives are more populated, there's a lot more aggression and a lot more fighting and a lot more hatefulness up there, and there's just a lot more racism, and it's quite loud on both sides because natives can speak up louder there because there's more of them, and then the whites are non-natives. It's just a very aggressive situation that's can be very terrifying for a young queer person, or they would do things that would be unsafe to keep themselves safe, which is an oxymoron. No, contradicting action. And I would just love to be able to be that person that people can see and be like, this is what I want to go. So me building myself up, which once again, myself is the business, and putting myself out there so people can see that I'm successful, I can do what I need to do, I can live my life authentically, while, or even with the hands that were given to me when I was younger. Hands that were dealt, the cards that were dealt. There's the phrase.
You got there.
So I want to do that, but also I want to be a global phenomenon. I want to be able to do, like, Bianca Del Rio has a tour coming out, and I just want to be a filthy comic like her. She's doing a 60-city tour in North America. So cool. Love to get that.
We get there.
We'll get there, yeah. Just have to work on my one-woman show, which is coming out in 2024.
That's right. We started talking about that, didn't we? Okay, I'm going to switch it up into my lightning round.
Okay,
So
I got this.
This first is just this or that. Don't think whatever, one or the other.
Okay.
Dinner at a fancy restaurant or home-cooked meal?
Fancy restaurant.
Multiple short vacations or one long vacation a year?
Multiple short.
Mexico or Hawaii?
Mexico.
Why?
Because I love brown men.
Fair.
But also Hawaii has brown men. I've never been to Hawaii. I like it when my dollar's better.
Oh, when your dollars, but yeah. Hawaii's definitely more expensive.
Yeah.
Spain or Portugal?
Spain.
Vancouver or Victoria?
Victoria.
Early riser or like to sleep in?
Early riser.
I think that's changed, right? Since you stopped drinking?
I'm still up with the daylight.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Oh, when I was drinking too, I was still up. As soon as the sun goes up, summer messes me up because I'm up at 5 a.m. Winter, it's quite nicer because I'm now sleeping until, well, before the time change, I was sleeping until 8, and now I'm back up at 7 again.
Drive or fly?
I do like to drive, but flying if it's long distance. Like, I just drove to Calgary, and I hated it. But also it's because it was winter, and driving there was so bad. Driving home was nice.
So if you had either option, money not considered, driving or flying?
Flying.
Audiobooks or real books?
Real books.
Dog or cat?
Cat.
Okay. I think it's just interesting.
It is interesting, but also, like, audiobooks. I like an audiobook when I'm driving. So,
I mean, I hope you wouldn't like a real book when you're driving.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine? Just, like, have my book on the side. Have one of those little, what are they, things that I can display a book. Just flip the pages while I'm driving.
Yeah, an audiobook like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine.
But I do prefer a real book. I know people talk about how real books are destroying the planet and trees and yada yada and so much things, but there's just something comforting about holding a book. I know people say I should get a Kindle or Kudu or whatever they're called.
I mean, there's multiple ways to look at that in terms of like environmental impact and all other shit.
And I'm on a mission where I'm trying to read 3 books a month. And I did it all so far except August. August I failed. I only read 2 books.
Favorite type of music?
I'm terrible with music. Radio.
So just random.
Just random.
Okay.
Just throw something on. Which I love about Spotify now is that they'll start looking at songs that you listen to and create lists for you.
Algorithms and stuff.
So they have like daily mix 1, 2, 3, 4, which changes every day based on the music that I listen to.
Yeah.
Which is great because the only music, this is not a short answer, the only music that
What
I
else
listen
is new?
to is, because since I perform so much, I'm trying to learn music and I'm really bad at learning words. So I have to listen to songs over and over again. So my music I listen to is essentially just music that I'm going to perform.
Right.
So what's nice when I switch it up is that Spotify now creates music based on what you're listening to.
Favorite time of year?
I love summer. If I can live in shorts and a muscle shirt all year round, that's what I want to do. I hate socks.
What is your favorite place to travel for a vacation?
I've only ever been in North America, and I love Mexico. I love a beach. I love the consistent weather. Like, it's 28 to 35, like, all year round.
I almost thought you were going to say Disney because you've done like 2 this year.
I do love Disney, but it's now.
But Mexico Beach is the top.
Yeah, and then like traveling and exploring I love to explore, and I do love Disney. I went multiple times, like so many times, but this is just going to sound privileged. I've been so many times that now when I go there, it's just basically, okay, I need to do this, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of just enjoying that I'm there.
What's a bucket list vacation place for you?
You know, a bucket list, ever since I was younger, I always wanted to do Thailand.
Oh.
Thailand was always on my bucket list. And then we met some fantastic lesbians that hired me to do their wedding in Thailand. And it's just very serendipitous that my drag is taking me to Thailand. And then and then we're going. We're going to spend 2 weeks, 3.
We're in Thailand for 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 full weeks, not including the travel days.
Yeah, plus
so,
travel.
I want to do the Mediterranean. So I've always, like everyone says, once again, cruises aren't the best thing to do, but I want to do a gay cruise around the Mediterranean. Like, I just want to hit a bunch of spots so then I can see what I like, and then I can go back and go again.
I mean, you know, my friends Jason Patrick, they've done 2 cruises, both straight.
Yeah, a gay one.
Yeah.
Where people are just having sex on the dance floor. I just want to be filth. I want to see people vomiting in the hallways and like doing lines of coke off each other's dicks. Like, I just want to like be very immersed in filth on these cruises.
Well, I feel like, and from what I've heard, because I obviously haven't done one, is there's kind of 2 types of people that are on those cruises. It's those who are at the parties and the orgies and all that, and then there's those who are there and actually do all the excursions when you're at port and stuff.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't be drinking, so I'd be doing all the excursions as well.
Yeah.
And then my partying time is like done by 11. I'm going to watch the show and go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, if I'm thinking about something else, this is actually a big one on my bucket list. And I might do it on my own because I haven't found anyone that wants to do it with me. I want to do a 12 to 15 day hiking in Patagonia. Yeah, Patagonia. So it's down like the very tip of South America, and you hike around the mountains. It looks pretty cool.
Could be interesting.
It's a big hike.
That would be a big hike.
But it's not all hiking for the 12 days, but it's a good portion of it.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
There's the one in, is it Spain, that people do too? I forget what it's called. I have a friend who did it, where it's like usually a week journey that you walk along.
Yeah.
Trail. It's more a trail, not so much a hike, but.
Yeah, this one's a hike.
Yeah.
And then there's like a lodge that you can get to, and it's fantastic. And there's parts where you can hike down to the most southern tip of the world. It's not Antarctica, but southern tip of
South America.
Like, I think it's like the most southern tip. I got to look it up again. It was really cool when I was researching it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like either the most southern tip that's not Antarctica.
How do you handle work-life balance and self-care as an entrepreneur? Lots of sex.
Yeah, a lot of sex. Just help me forget. Just pound my memories out of me. Work-life balance. Well, there are times where I work consistently, and last winter, which winters are normally quite calm, we were so busy last winter. We just did so much. And then the summer, normally I'm working so much during the summer as well, but this year I was like, I am just going to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I do the odd things on Thursday, Wednesday if I can. So I was able to be a woman of leisure all summer. I just worked my 3 days. The rest of the days was gym, pool, reading my book, sitting in the sun, going to dinner with friends. Like, it was a really good time, and it taught me some lessons that I need to really focus on my alone time. So I will do my work shift. It's fantastic. I don't stay at the venues long afterwards because, for one, I don't drink anymore, so there's no reason for me to stay longer. I mean, there is if I want to talk to people, but by usually the time when I'm done a show, everyone's quite wasted, and they're just saying the same story 4 times that they've already
not
told
having
me.
a real conversation.
Yeah, exactly. No real conversation. So I go home. So it made me really appreciate my alone time. And I'm a very extroverted person, but I do realize that some extroverts, when they need to recharge, they recharge with people. I've realized that when I want to recharge, I just need to be alone. Like, sometimes maybe it's an hour, but it's not long. I just need to have a moment for my head.
Have a nap.
Yeah, a nap, which
I love my
learned
naps
to
too.
love. That's nap.
It's definitely a thing we agree on is naps.
Yeah. Except I've gotten so used to naps now that if I don't have my nap at that scheduled time that I've been having every day, I get grumpy.
Just like a toddler.
Yeah, exactly. And then my brain will re-snap in during the time when I'd normally wake up. So my brain, during that time that's supposed to be nap time, I think my brain's just instantly like, you should be sleeping now, so we're not going to give you any happy emotions. And then when I'm waking up again, I'm like, oh, I'm good.
I'm back. Do you have any favorite books or podcasts that you listen to that you want to share?
I'm really bad with social media.
Stay in front of the mic.
I try to do my best, but I don't have any podcasts that I listen to exclusively, but I do like watching clips of things.
So TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok.
Scrolling.
And I love Katya's. Oh my God, Trixie and Katya's. Katya. Oh my God, I can't even say it. I love their podcast. There's these 2 guys, Joe Santiago and Frank something. They're the basement podcast. That's so funny. It's so good. I love comedy. I love podcasts that are going to be more humor based. As for books, I read books all the time. I've been recently getting into creative nonfiction with gay stories. Yeah, I realized that most of them are really tragic gay stories. Why don't they have a happy ending? They always die. I just read the Song of Achilles. I'm not going to destroy it for you, but God, that ending was so tragic.
Well, and I know you and I've had that discussion around a lot of queer stuff because I think that was where Red, White, and Royal Blue was like finally had a happy ending.
Yeah,
it was
I'm
like one of the
reading that
first
right now.
queer stories, books, movies, obviously, but that actually has a happy ending.
Yeah.
So it's
they
like,
have their moment of like tragedy and then they
as you
get out
do.
of it. But I'm reading the book now because someone told me that it's way better. And I will say the book has a lot more swearing in it than I thought it would have. Yeah, I was very surprised.
Interesting. Well, and most people say the book's better, but I'm like, I like if I can finish it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because usually I think if I read it, it's like my brain thinks it's like time to like chill, so then I get tired. But and so my last question is, what advice would you give other queer individuals who are considering being an entrepreneur? And we can keep it focused on drag if you want.
I think that if you're going to become an entrepreneur, or any advice that I'd give is to take the leap. Just jump into it. Like, it's scary. Like, I'm not going to lie. When I decided to do drag full time, I waited until I had a good foundation under myself. I waited until everything was set in stone. I had enough gigs booked. Everything was fantastic. And then I took that leap, and then COVID happened. So there's a lot of things that went with that. And, but there's so many things in life that I never did because I always found an excuse not to do it. And it's essentially just doing it, just going out there and having a support system or having someone that you can chat with. But I'm not going to lie, it's scary for anyone starting a business because you're putting a lot on the line. And then if you're not successful, is that years that you take it out of your life that that didn't work? Or if you're not paying into CPP, you have to start a savings because otherwise you won't have a pension when you get older. Like,
That's true.
There's so many variables, but well, I say that my life is better now that I'm my own boss. Yes, because I hate authority. I hate people telling me what to do. I like working with people where we can work together, and create something. But when someone's like, you need to be here at 9 and you can't leave until 5 p.m. I get that for a show because, we need to be there before the show starts. But if I've like done a show and they're like, you need to stay for 4 more hours to communicate with me, like, no, you've already paid me. I'm done. So my contract's like, I'll stay for a half an hour after the show and then I'm done.
Perfect. Any last closing thoughts?
Vote for Ella.
Vote for Ella. You want to use Jaylene's line? This message was approved.
Oh, that's right. This is approved. I don't have anything else other to say, other than I will also be starting my own podcast. My goodness. I will also be starting my own podcast with Unicorns Live, which is called Denta. Hi, how are you? And it's going to be focused on Indigenous lived experiences and keeping culture in your life in a colonial world. So you should check that out.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Get it rolling here, lickety split.
Yeah, it's all going to be coming out soon.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching or listening, depending on how you're listening here. But thanks for tuning in to Queerpreneurs Unleashed, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Thanks.